The worst betrayal didn't happen in a hotel room. It happened in a work chat. Lauren didn't find lipstick on his shirt. She didn't find hotel receipts. She didn't find a secret apartment, a second phone, or some obvious message that said, "I miss your body." What she found was worse, at least to her. She found out that for 8 months, her husband had been telling another woman everything he no longer told her. His fears, his doubts, his shame, his plans, his late-night thoughts. And when Lauren finally held his phone in her hand, shaking, staring at a work chat with a woman named Mia, her husband said the sentence that made everything worse. "Nothing happened. We were just talking." But that was the moment Lauren realized something painful. Sometimes the betrayal is not that your partner gave someone else their body. Sometimes it's that they gave someone else the version of themselves you've been begging to meet again. Lauren and Chris had been married for 11 years. They lived in a suburb outside Chicago. 2 kids, a mortgage, a dog, a life that looked normal from the outside. Chris worked in tech sales. Lauren was a school counselor. And if you asked their friends, most would say they were a good couple. Not perfect, but solid. That word again. Solid. People use that word when a relationship still functions. The bills get paid, the kids get picked up, the house stays clean enough, the family photos still look warm, but functioning is not the same as intimacy. A marriage can run like a machine while the people inside it slowly become strangers. At first, Lauren didn't notice anything dramatic. Chris wasn't coming home smelling like perfume. He wasn't hiding on weekend trips. He wasn't suddenly working out too much or buying new clothes. He was just less available. Not physically, emotionally. When Lauren asked how his day was, he said, "Fine." When she asked if something was wrong, he said, "Just tired." When she tried to talk at night, he scrolled his phone and said, "Can we not do this right now?" And after hearing that enough times, Lauren stopped asking deep questions. Not because she stopped caring, because caring started to feel humiliating. There is a specific kind of loneliness that happens inside marriage. It's not the loneliness of being alone. It's the loneliness of sitting beside someone who used to be your person and realizing you now have to earn access to their inner world. Chris had always been a little closed off. Lauren knew that. In the beginning, she even liked it. He seemed calm, stable, masculine in that quiet way. But over time, the same silence that once felt safe started to feel like a locked door. And Lauren was tired of knocking. Then Chris lost his job. He didn't tell Lauren right away. That was the first crack. He came home that Tuesday evening, kissed the kids, helped with dinner, took out the trash, watched half an episode of a crime show, and acted normal, too normal. Lauren only found out 3 days later when his health insurance paperwork came in the mail. She stood in the kitchen holding the envelope. "Chris, why does this say your employment ended?" He froze, and that small freeze told her he had already had time to prepare a lie. He sighed and said, "I was going to tell you." Lauren stared at him. "When?" "I just needed a few days to process it." That answer made sense on the surface, but something about it hurt, because when life collapses, most people run to the person they trust most. Chris had not run to her. He had hidden from her. Still, Lauren tried to be understanding. She didn't yell. She didn't shame him. She hugged him. She told him they would figure it out. She stayed up late that night, making a budget, checking savings, cutting expenses, trying to become useful because she didn't know how else to reach him. But Chris was distant, polite, grateful, still not open. And then one night, at 1:17 a.m., his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Lauren wasn't trying to investigate. At least that's what she told herself. But when your partner has been emotionally disappearing, your body starts noticing things before your mind admits them. The screen lit up. Mia. The preview said, "I know today was hard. I'm proud of you for getting through it." Lauren's stomach dropped. Not because the message was sexual, because it was intimate. There are messages that don't look wrong to outsiders, but inside a marriage, they cut deep. Because the question is not always, did they cross a physical line? Sometimes the question is, why does this person know the part of you I haven't been allowed to see? The next morning, Lauren asked calmly, "Who's Mia?" Chris didn't even look up from his coffee. "Someone from work." "Your old work?" "Yeah." "She still texts you?" He glanced at her then, too quickly. "Sometimes we're friends." That word, friends, the most convenient hiding place in modern relationships. Lauren said, "She texted you last night." Chris's jaw tightened. "You checked my phone?" No, it lit up. He looked annoyed now, not guilty, annoyed. And that somehow made Lauren feel even smaller. "Lauren, we're just talking. She knows what I've been going through." Lauren swallowed. "And I don't?" Silence. That was the whole marriage right there. One question, no answer. Over the next few weeks, Lauren started noticing the pattern. Chris was quiet with her, but alive on his phone. He was tired with her, but emotionally available to someone else. He told Lauren, "I don't want to talk about it," then stayed up until midnight, texting Mia about the exact same thing. And that's when Lauren began to understand the shape of the betrayal. Mia wasn't just a coworker. She had become the place Chris went when he felt afraid. And in a marriage, that role matters, because emotional closeness is not built through sex. It is built through access. Who hears your fear first? Who gets the honest version of you? Who do you message when something good happens? Who do you run to when something hurts? That person becomes your emotional home. And Chris had quietly moved out of his marriage without packing a single bag. One Friday night, Lauren found the chat. She didn't plan to. Chris had left his laptop open on the kitchen counter while putting the kids to bed. A notification appeared, Mia again. Lauren stared at it for almost a minute before touching the trackpad. She knew she was crossing a line, but she also knew something had already crossed into their marriage long before she opened that chat. The messages went back months. At first, work stuff, then jokes, then stress, then personal things, then late-night vulnerability. Chris had told Mia he felt like a failure after losing his job. He told her he was scared Lauren would stop respecting him. He told her he sometimes sat in his car before going inside because he didn't want to face the house. He told her he missed feeling capable. He told her he didn't know how to be a man when he wasn't providing. Lauren read every sentence with a strange mix of pain and tenderness, because part of her wanted to hold him, and another part wanted to scream, not because he had feelings, because he gave those feelings to someone else and gave Lauren the leftovers. Then she saw Mia's replies. "You don't have to be strong with me. I get you. You can tell me anything. I wish Lauren understood how much pressure you carry." That last one made Lauren's hands go cold, because now Mia wasn't just comforting him. She had placed herself inside their marriage as the woman who understood him better. That is how emotional affairs become dangerous. They don't always begin with desire. They begin with comparison. My partner doesn't get me, but you do. And once that story takes root, loyalty begins to feel like obligation, while the outside connection feels like freedom. Chris walked into the kitchen and saw her at the laptop. His face changed. "What are you doing?" Lauren looked up. For a second, she couldn't speak. Then she said, "I just found out my husband has been grieving with another woman." Chris moved toward the laptop. "It's not what you think." Lauren laughed once. Not because it was funny, because that phrase is almost always followed by exactly what you think. He said, "Nothing happened." Lauren stood up. "That's the part you don't understand. Something did happen." Chris shook his head. "We never touched. We never kissed. I never slept with her." Lauren's voice broke. "You gave her the truth." He went quiet. She pointed at the screen. "You told her you were scared. You told her you felt like a failure. You told her you sat in the car before coming inside. Do you know how many nights I asked you what was wrong?" Chris looked away. Lauren continued. "And you said nothing. You said, 'I'm tired.' You said, 'Drop it.'" Her eyes filled with tears now. "I wasn't asking because I wanted to criticize you. I was asking because I missed you." That sentence landed. Because underneath every accusation, there is usually a need. I need to matter. I need to be chosen. I need to know I'm still your person. Chris sat down slowly. For the first time, he looked less defensive, more ashamed. "I didn't want you to see me like that," he said. Lauren whispered, "So you let her see you like that?" He didn't answer. And there it was. The emotional betrayal wasn't just that he had opened up. It was that he had decided Lauren was not safe enough to receive the truth. That is the kind of wound that doesn't show up in screenshots. But it changes everything. Chris tried to explain. He said Mia was easy to talk to because she wasn't in the middle of the stress. She didn't need bills paid. She didn't need him to be strong. She didn't look at him like a husband or father. She just listened. and that was true. But it was also the trap. Of course, an outside person feels easier. They don't live with your consequences. They don't share your mortgage. They don't raise your children. They don't carry the emotional history of every disappointment, every fight, every unpaid bill, every broken promise. An outside person gets the edited version of your pain. Your partner gets the mess. And if you give your softest self to the outside person and only bring your irritability home, eventually home becomes the enemy in your story. Lauren said, "You made me the woman who pressures you and made her the woman who understands you." Chris flinched. Because it was true, not intentionally, but still true. And unintentional betrayal still hurts. For 3 days, Lauren barely spoke. Chris panicked. He deleted Mia's number. He offered to show Lauren everything. He apologized over and over. But Lauren didn't want surveillance. She didn't want passwords. She didn't want to become a detective in her own marriage. She wanted to feel chosen again. That's what people often miss about trust. Trust is not restored by proving nothing physical happened. Trust is restored when the betrayed person feels like they are once again the first place your heart goes. A week later, they sat in the car outside a marriage counselor's office. Neither of them wanted to go inside. Chris finally said, "I didn't think of it as cheating." Lauren looked out the window. "I know. That makes it worse?" She nodded. "Because it means you didn't even realize you were giving away something sacred." That word stayed with him. Sacred. Not dramatic, not religious. Sacred in the quiet human sense. The private doorway between two people. The place where fear, shame, desire, grief, and hope are supposed to be safe. Chris had not shared his body, but he had shared that room, and Lauren had been locked outside. In counseling, Chris finally said the thing he had never admitted. "I was afraid Lauren would see me as weak." Lauren cried immediately. Not because he was weak, because all those months he had been suffering next to her, and she had become a threat in his mind. She said, "I didn't need you to be perfect. I needed you to let me be close." That became the turning point, not the apology, not the deleted messages, that sentence. Because intimacy is not built by being impressive. It is built by being reachable. Over the next months, Chris had to learn a new kind of loyalty. Not just sexual loyalty, emotional loyalty. He had to stop using another woman as a pressure valve. He had to stop calling secrecy privacy. He had to stop calling emotional dependency friendship. And he had to face the deeper truth. Mia was not special because she knew him better. She knew him better because he gave her better access. That difference matters. A lot of people say, "They understand me." But sometimes they understand you because you handed them the parts of yourself you kept hidden from the person at home. Lauren had to face something too. She had to decide whether she could rebuild a marriage where the betrayal had no physical proof, no hotel, no kiss, no confession of desire, just thousands of tiny moments where another woman became the first person he reached for. And in some ways, that was harder to forgive, because physical betrayal can be named. Emotional betrayal often gets minimized. "You're overreacting. We're just friends." It wasn't like that. But the body knows. The nervous system knows when it has been replaced. Months later, Chris got a new job. The first person he told was Lauren, not by accident, by choice. He called her from the parking lot before anyone else. His voice shook a little. "I got it," he said. Lauren closed eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt something come back. Not all of it, but something. Because love is rebuilt in moments like that. Small choices, repeated choices. Who gets the first call? Who gets the full truth? Who gets the version of you that's scared before you make yourself look strong? That is where loyalty lives. Not only in the bedroom, in the direction your heart turns when life hits. A year later, Lauren still didn't describe what happened as a traditional affair. But she didn't call it nothing either, because it wasn't nothing. It was a warning. A marriage does not only need physical faithfulness, it needs emotional protection. And sometimes the most dangerous person is not the one your partner sleeps with. It's the one who slowly becomes easier to talk to than you, the one who knows the fears you never heard, the one who gets the late-night honesty, the one who becomes the witness to your partner's inner life while you become the roommate who only sees the tired body. That kind of betrayal is quiet. No lipstick, no hotel key, no obvious evidence, just distance, coldness, a feeling that someone else has been living inside the room that used to belong to you. So, before you say, "We're just talking," ask yourself one brutal question. Would your partner feel replaced if they read everything? Because if the answer is yes, it already means something. So, here's the question for you. What hurts more? Finding out your partner gave someone else their body, or finding out they gave someone else the part of their soul that used to belong to you?